Hey everyone, you listen to Fantasy Uptick. I'm Jeremiah Blue, and today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite sleepers of this year's draft, rookie Zack Moss from the Buffalo Bills. But before I jump into that, I just want to take a second to thank everybody who's been supporting this channel over the last 2 months. We really committed to the YouTube thing about 2 months ago, and last I checked, we were about 11 subscribers away from reaching our initial goal, which was 100 subscribers, which at the time just seemed like an absolute mountain to climb. We didn't think we were going to get there, but we seemed to be getting there pretty quick, actually faster than we initially thought. So if you like the content from this video and you want to help support our channel, please hit a like and subscribe and help us get to that initial goal of 100 subscribers. And with that being said, let's just jump right in. So when looking at Buffalo, the thing that jumps out to me is what they want to do. So Buffalo wants to run the football and play good defense. If we take a look at what they did last year, they were 6th in rushing attempts and bottom 4 in pass completion. So even though they have a young quarterback, they just traded for Stephon Diggs, what they really want to do is run the football. And I think the addition of Stephon Diggs is just going to make the passing game a little bit more dynamic, which is going to force teams to play the pass a little bit more, play honest football, and allow some of those rushing lanes to be a little bit more open for these running backs like Zack Moss and Devin Singletary. Now, Devin Singletary is going higher in the draft, and if I'm getting one or the other, I would probably still take Devin Singletary, but the gap of when they're being taken ADP in fantasy drafts, it just doesn't make any sense. Devin Singletary to me is just slightly above Zack Moss and who's going to actually get the carries in this offense. Zack Moss to me is a better running back. He's a rookie. And Devin Singletary is good. This is definitely not a knock on Devin Singletary. It's more of a plus to Zack Moss overall. Devin Singletary, again, if we compare the two, is 203 pounds. Zack Moss is 222. So right off the bat, Zack Moss projects as the bigger receiver. They ran about the same 40 time in the combine. Now, Devin Singletary looks really quick on film, but so does Zack Moss. And again, Zack Moss, if we just look at what he did in college, he was known as a tackle breaker, which is the same thing for Devin Singletary. They both can pass protect from the backfield, and they both can do things in the passing game. But if we compare the two, the first question that we want to ask is obviously, are they both talented? And yes, Devin Singletary proved last year that he's talented and he's able to do a lot with the opportunities that he was given, right? And I am not dogging Devin Singletary, but I think people are looking at Devin Singletary, they're drafting him like he's going to get some sort of 70 to 80% split, where at worst, I believe this is going to be a 60-40 split. So the first thing we got to look at is Zack Moss talented? Well, Zack Moss led all running backs last year in college with 92 missed tackles and a 38% missed tackle rate in his ability to make the defenders miss tackles. And that's the number one job of a running back, is find the gap in the running game, find the holes, use good vision, and make people miss. And he's been doing that consistently in college. It wasn't a one-year thing. He was good for the last 3 years. He was productive in college. So first off, is Zack Moss a good running back? Yes, he is a good running back. Is there an opportunity for him to succeed in Buffalo? Well, we just talked about how Buffalo is one of the most run-heavy teams in football. And if we look at Frank Gore last year having 179 touches. Now, the coaching staff or the organization from Buffalo has already said that they're planning on Zack Moss coming right in and taking that Frank Gore role. They're not talking about Singletary being a workhorse back and Zack Moss being a change of pace guy. They do the same thing, except Zack Moss is honestly bigger and better at it. And we're going to get to why I think that here in a second, right? So again, those 179 touches that Frank Gore leaves behind, that is opportunity right there, right? And what was Frank Gore's role in this offense was really the goal line back, the guy who's going to get you touchdowns, which in fantasy is huge. You want the guy that's going to get touchdowns. So if this turns into a 50-50 split, which I think will be closer to a 50-50 split than it would be to a 70-30 split, it's probably going to end up being like a 55-45 in Singletary's favor. I'm acknowledging that Singletary is going to start off as the starter and that Zack Moss is going to be worked in, but Zack Moss might actually be the guy that they rely on in the red zone. And if this turns into some sort of big split, I think it could go the other way with Zack Moss, because there's a couple of things that could get Singletary into the doghouse. Again, last year, if you compare Singletary to Frank Gore, and I'm not saying that Frank Gore is as good as Singletary. I don't think anybody's saying that, right? I'm saying Zack Moss is better than Frank Gore. So he's going to do more with the touches that he's given even as a rookie, because Frank Gore's towards the end of the career. I get that Frank Gore's great. I'm not dogging on Frank Gore, but Frank Gore got all the goal line carries for the most point. If there was only 12 goal line carries in Buffalo from a running back perspective, Singletary got 1, Frank Gore got the other 11. The reason for that is the main reason I think that Zack Moss could be better than Devin Singletary. And again, I don't want to say that I'm knocking Devin Singletary. I will stress again that if given the option, I would rather have Devin Singletary, but based on where they're going in ADP, I don't want anything to do with Devin Singletary because I think he's being drafted as a workhorse. I don't think he's going to be a workhorse. And I think Zack Moss is being drafted as a handcuff, and I think he's going to be a little bit more than a handcuff. I think he's going to be a timeshare guy because if we look at the underlying numbers, the reason that Devin Singletary never got the ball in the red zone is because he has fumble and drop issues. Last year, he fumbled 1 time for every 38 carries, and he dropped 1 out of every 6.8 catchable balls thrown his way, right? So that's big numbers. Those are not good. If you fumble the ball once every 38 carries, you're fumbling the ball essentially once every 2 games if you're some sort of workhorse back, and you're dropping the ball at least once every 2 games if you're catching the ball out of the backfield. On the flip side, and I know this was college versus pros, Zack Moss only fumbled the ball once out of 234 carries. Once out of every 234 carries. That's a big difference from once out of every 38. And then he dropped the ball once out of 14.2 catchable balls. Again, I understand this was college. Those are college defenders trying to make him fumble the ball versus NFL defenders trying to make him fumble the ball. But that's such a big gap that I have faith that Zack Moss is going to be better at protecting the football in the red zone in the NFL. And let's not forget that he is significantly bigger than Singletary, and he's known as a guy who makes people miss, a guy that can run with power. Those are the guys that have success in the NFL. His yards after contact, he got 74% of his yards in college came after contact in 2019, which was 1,041. So again, this is a guy that can push a pile and really have success in the red zone, and that's basically what he's being brought in there to do. And guys that score a lot of touchdowns, think about your LeGarrette Blunts in the past that, yeah, maybe they don't put up a lot of yards, but they put up a lot of production due to touchdowns. And Zack Moss is not a guy that's just all of a sudden not going to be able to put up yards. I think he can. If he gets 179 touches, which I'm not saying that he will, because that's, again, what Frank Gore got last year, and I do think that Devin Singletary does eat into that a little bit, but he could get 150 touches this year, and with those, I think he can do more than what Frank Gore did. I think he'll get majority of the red zone work, and I do think he'll be involved in the passing game because this is a guy that caught the ball out in college, and he's got good hands. He's shown that. So, again, for the price you're paying for Zack Moss, I think this is a guy that could be a real sleeper, not only for this year, but think if Devin Singletary gets hurt, he could be awesome this year, but going forward in dynasty modes, he's going to be a rookie this year, but next year he's not. And really, the draft stock difference between Moss and Singletary, there's not a gap there. So again, they drafted Zack Moss because they like Zack Moss. Pro Football folks going into this draft had Zack Moss as their number 1 running back. So there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that like Zack Moss, and there's a lot to like about Zack Moss. So this is just a guy to keep in mind. I know I've been preaching go running back heavy early so that you got your 4 guys so that at the end, because there's so much value at receiver. But if you find yourself looking for a running back late in drafts or comfortable with what the rest of your roster looks like and you understand the value of running back, getting a guy like Zack Moss is not a bad option, especially in those dynasty leagues, because eventually he's going to have more value than people realize he's going to have going forward in this season. All right, so that's my take on Zack Moss. That's one of my favorite running back sleepers this year. Let me know what you think. Do you think Devin Singletary is going to be absolutely phenomenal this year? Zack Moss is going to be a non-factor? Or do you agree with me? Do you think Zack Moss could really make an impact on that team? Let me know in the comments. That's it for today's show. I can't thank you guys enough for tuning in. As always, like, subscribe the video. Till next time, see ya!